Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Authentic Journey. I'm really excited for our guest today, George Stern. George is someone I always enjoy talking to, and the conversations we have get deep. I'm excited to get deep into topics that are not often discussed. And I know that George is going to be here for it. And I know he's going to be here on this journey with me. And it's going to really open up your mind to things that you may not have thought about before. And like I said, it's not going to be for everyone. So if you'd love to stick with us, we'd love to have you here. If it's not for you, I totally understand. But everyone, please welcome George Stern.
Thank you, good sir. That was an appropriate disclosure.
I know,
to
right?
say the least.
We got to fire off all the warnings here, man. This is the authentic journey. We got to keep it real with people.
Exactly, 100%, right? That's the whole purpose of the podcast, being authentic, being able to share whatever your heart desires without being fucking crucified for it, right? That's what it's about. I mean, look at the nature of the world. What's been going on all around us? This Charlie Kirk thing, wars left and right, violence is a fucking disease, man. So people should reflect upon the condition of the world and the condition of their heart and realize that everybody's got their own opinion and words don't hurt as long as the behavior is appropriate. Right? Violence is a disease, man. Thinking a thought of violence in itself can be considered a disease, but only if there's behavior behind it, right? And that's the purpose of battling your internal demons, right? These thoughts are going to come no matter what. All sorts of thoughts are going to come to you, and it is up to you. It is your responsibility to temper those thoughts, to temper those negative desires, and understand the difference of a good desire and a bad desire, the difference of good and evil. And everything I've learned, it started at a really young age. I had the privilege of being raised in a really cool, badass environment by a badass fucking family. And Grandpa Stern, man, talk about a strong spirit. He was born in Germany, grew up Orthodox Jew, and the Nazis came by, and we all know what happened. Worst things imaginable happened to my grandfather's family. Worst things imaginable. I'm not even getting into that. But at the age of 13, on his bar mitzvah, the Nazis come down and they take his father. You know, they abduct him for weeks at a time, and then they drop him back off. And shortly afterwards, you know, he comes back a broken man. You can only imagine what those fuckers did to him. And he passed away. And then World War II ensues, and my grandfather escapes on the last Kinder transport. For those that aren't familiar with the Kinder transport, it was a rail system designed specifically to help children escape from Europe to England and eventually on ships back to the United States. And my grandfather arrives to the States, pretty much an orphan, unknowing that he had a brother that had survived. You know, they hadn't connected at that time, and his mother was still in Europe, hadn't escaped yet. And he arrives in Oklahoma with a sponsor family, and he's living in a little basement, and he's in high school, and this is during the war. And he starts traveling around, talking about his experience. People didn't have social media and streaming TV and all these things to communicate with each other. So they relied on people like my grandfather to describe his experience across seas. And my grandfather immediately fell in love with the States. He's like, oh man, these people are just embracing me. He's used to people wanting to murder him for just being Jewish. So he comes to the States, he falls in love, and he starts practicing every day in the mirror his speech, because he immediately wants to disassociate himself with the Germans, and he had a strong German accent. And my grandfather comes from a very disciplined family. You know, I'm a well-off family in Germany, and he was raised with the love of a mother and a father, and with a principled background, which was Judaism, right? But also Kabbalah, to be a principled person. And I'm telling you this because he's my hero. He is literally my hero. He is what made it all come together for me over and over and over again. Whenever I was in doubt, it was either God or my grandfather or my family, but specifically Grandpa Stern. He comes over to the States, he's suffering all these things, and then unfortunately he gets drafted in the military and he gets shipped right back to Europe.
Damn.
Insane. Insane. Imagine that. And he's already fallen in love with the United States. You know, he's welcomed here, he's accepted here, and you get your bigots and your anti-Semites or whatever you want to call them, you know, and they're still hating on Jews, whatever. And I'll never fucking forget what he told me when he got here. There were still signs on people's establishments or businesses that said no dogs, no Jews, and no N-words. This was just one generation ago, man. This shit was still going on. And so my grandfather gets shipped to Germany, and he's at D-Day on the beaches of Normandy 2 weeks after D-Day. And he says that you arrived and the ocean was still red for miles. It's 2 weeks after D-Day, right? And there's books written about my grandfather and his experience in the war, et cetera, et cetera. And, you know, he spoke German, so they used him as military intelligence. He would interrogate the SS officers. You can only imagine what kind of stuff he learned, right? And what they were after. But regardless, you know, you can read one of the books that's written about him. It tells you a little bit about his experience. But what I'm trying to convey more than anything is that he was raised by two loving parents that were principled people that wanted to embody the best qualities of life with their own awareness level, under their own level of consciousness. And it cycles back to what we already know about existence. So there's a structure and there's cycles, and we're barely being relieved of the age of ignorance, the age of darkness. And it's the strongest souls that we need to rely on to be able to pass this tradition on during those dark ages, so it doesn't get obliterated. It doesn't get completely, what's the word? What's the opposite of remember? When it gets completely forgotten. So my grandfather's suffering all these things. He's in the war. He gets shot right through the shoulder, almost through the heart, and they bandage him up, and 4 hours later he's back on the front lines. He was at the Battle of the Bulge, got a Purple Heart, all these things, and he comes back and survives all this horrid shit, and it never broke his spirit. Never broke his spirit, ever. He was there to be resilient and stand up for what it means to be a principled person, regardless of your culture, regardless of your religion, ethnicity. My grandfather didn't give a shit if you were black, white, yellow, whatever. He didn't give a shit about your religion. He didn't care if you liked girls or guys. He cared about what is in here, is what is coming out of your mouth, truth. Truth. Are you speaking truth? Are you being respectful? Are you being respectful to yourself? Are you being loyal to your wife? Are you being responsible with your family? Are you doing clean business, or are you being a piece of shit? He would treat you the same regardless of your social class or where you came from, as long as you embodied those things. And those are universal principles. And it's one thing to read about these things or to have somebody talk to you about them, and it's an entirely different thing to be raised in an environment where somebody is continuously embodying these principles and showing you how to do these things on a daily fucking basis. Because that's what truth is, right? The Holy Trinity, one of the Holy Trinities, is the intention of the heart, the tree of life, the understanding of good and evil, the tree of knowledge, and then combining those and refining them constantly and practicing what you preach in your behavior. If you don't practice what you preach and you don't behave what you know and what you've learned and your intention and this and that, it's just information. It's just information that's pretty much fucking useless. Wisdom is attained when you start behaving accordingly to what your intention is and what you know to be true, and you have very refined intuition, right? And that's what my grandfather showed me. And he was a little bit rough around the edges. He had very high expectations. He wasn't the type that could give you a hug and give you all these compliments like I'm going to be with my son. But the purpose of a generation is to continually shed what no longer serves. And I will be damned if I do not do a similar job as he did to embody all those qualities, but also tell my son that I love him every day and give him a hug and tell him that everything's going to be okay and be there for him or for her. And that's what I learned from my grandfather. You know, he's my hero, always will be my hero. And I think that this world needs more John Sterns. the family unit is so important. It's getting obliterated left and right.
Yeah.
And for me to have somebody like that in my life is not a coincidence. It's a blessing. It's something that I have gratitude on a daily basis. It's embedded into my being. And there's nothing more that I want to do than to just be authentic. And that's why one of the reasons I was so excited about your podcast. Authenticity is so powerful, but there's also other mechanisms that come into play. So many different energies. And again, principles, virtues that are independent of culture, right? This is why certain cultures outpace each other. People get all annoyed and butthurt or whatever about your culture this, your culture that. Well, maybe this person's culture is doing this way better than your culture, right? People get so bent out of shape. Political correctness, fuck political correctness. It is destroying humanity, right? To pretend that something is true just to cater to somebody's feelings or to have somebody not have their feelings hurt. Are you fucking crazy? That is the complete opposite way that I was raised, right? So I think people need to take accountability for their thoughts, for their actions, and to constantly refine themselves so that they can be leaders of their own household. Nobody's asking you to be the leader of the world. Be the leader of yourself. Be the leader of your household, and vice versa. Have your wife be your leader. Twin flame energy all day.
Love that.
So that's how impactful my family was for me. My grandfather, man. I think about that guy every single day, and I do my very best to honor my ancestors and all those that came before us through self-transformation, right? Through shedding what no longer serves, understanding what these principles are, how they affect my life uniquely so that I can reflect on them and understand what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be changed, what needs to be modified, so that my focus is on self-transformation, self-improvement, becoming a good person. That's what Jesus Christ represents. It's a metaphor. I don't think that anybody's going to come here to save us, so to speak. I think that Jesus Christ energy is already in you, waiting to be unleashed, activated in your DNA. And Jesus Christ is a metaphor for resurrection, right? And what are we resurrecting? Continually, you're resurrecting yourself. You're literally shedding energy that no longer serves you as you self-reflect, as you follow the principles that you're learning. It's actually more akin to alchemy. People think that alchemy is just mixing metals and this and that. Spiritual alchemy is understanding that all of these energy zones fall within a certain range and they produce matter, elements, and they all fall within energy zones, and these energy zones have energy ranges. And the more you shed, what does it mean to shed something? It means you're ejecting something out of your life and hopefully replacing it with something much more powerful. And that energy that you're replacing is dense. It's carbon-based. It's fucking dense. And you're replacing it with really light energy. So what you're really trying to achieve is a climb. And what is the climb? It's shedding what no longer serves as you increase your vibration, as you shed the things that no longer serve you. And energetically speaking, you are literally creating what we call a diamond body or a light body. There's no coincidence that you're made out of carbon. You're carbon-based, and you're made out of water too. So that's why we call it the diamond body, because what happens to carbon under immense pressure? It turns into a diamond. What happens to a human being? My grandfather is the best example of pressure that never was broken, but refined and polished and then transferred that tradition over to me, right? And your experience can be unique, but what is not unique is the structure. There is a fundamental pattern to creation. And once that's understood and passed on and refined, you keep improving and improving and improving the knowledge so that you can improve your journey. And that's the purpose of generations, to shed what no longer serves and to pass on the good things pragmatically as possible from the heart and have beautiful children and have an awesome family and inspire others to do the same thing, right? But that means that you have to be able to conquer your own demons and temper your negative desires and all this shit. And look around us, man. It's a fucking inverted world. So much materialism, consumerism, violence, this and that. It's enough to make somebody go crazy, right? But it's also enough to inspire somebody to stay on the straight and narrow and follow that path of wholesomeness, of goodness, of righteousness, to be upright. And that's what it's all about for me right now in life. You know, I'm married. I have a beautiful wife. I love her more than anything, and she understands this path just as well as I do in her own way. You know, and we feed off of each other. We love each other. We can be kids with each other, and I can't think of a better person to do life with than my own wife. And I don't believe in coincidences, and there's no better place for me to be than here with you chatting about all this stuff. So thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Love having you here, man. This is going to be great. You brought up a phrase and a concept, and I'd really love to learn more about it. I'm sure our audience would love to learn more about it. You say that it's an inverted world. What do you mean by that?
It means that the energy that suspends this existence has been polarized. And there's a specific reason for that. Because God itself is an amalgamation of everything that exists, always, especially when you're talking about time. And what's the polarity of love? A lot of people will say fear, or they'll say other words, but love is a combination of all the principles that exist, that can exist, integrity, honesty, humility, et cetera, but it's specifically all the positive polarities, right? And people talk about like the Big Bang and how there's expansion or a separation. Yeah, there is a separation of love. So you have all this polar energy and everything in between. And this world specifically, how do you feel it? Do you feel that we're living in a world that's closer to positive polarities or negative polarities? It depends on your point in life or your circumstance, but overall, look at it. Look at the condition of the world, and it's okay to analyze the world through this lens. That's what God wants you to do. That's what your mission here is to do, is to understand that there is a structure to the universe, and that not only is it okay for you to analyze this world through these types of lenses, but it is demanded of you. That's what Kabbalah is. That's what Christianity is. That's what all of these religions or spiritual esoteric practices desire. That's what their goals are, is to give you a practical explanation of what's going on around you, so that you can become a better person. It's so cliche to say to become a better person, but it's so fucking true. It's so true. Look at the condition of the world, right? An inverted world, I'll give you a really good example of an inversion. Materialism, right? It's okay to have nice things, right? But is that all you're living for? Is that all you're living for? Like if you were to take a pie and slice it, divide it in terms of what your focus is or what you appreciate it, and if most of that pie is taken up by material things or by false power or imposing, forcing people to do things that they don't want to do, right? Or just literally being a piece of shit, that is a really good example of an inversion, right? Your DNA has a specific sequence to it, your DNA itself. And once humanity is conditioned to live a certain way over a period of time, your DNA template starts to invert itself. The energies now are literally operating in reverse of each other, right? And that was originally the purpose of this existence within these time matrices, right? To live in these inverted worlds and these fallen worlds. Why? Because are you more powerful than an angel? Are you more powerful than a demon? If you can survive this world, not just in this life, but in multiple lives, right? Through your ancestors, and you keep coming back and you keep coming back, and your bloodline keeps coming back, and the spirit is never broken, and eventually you start to, what happens to those gene codes? Kabbalah says, right, to correct the soul by 120 degrees. What is it talking about? What has degrees? A circle, a sphere, right? And what is, on a molecular level, what is existence? It's atom, quarks, particles. When you look at the center of an atom, a proton and a neutron, and then you have electrons spinning around it. You know, the electron cloud is spinning practically at the speed of light. You are made out of atoms, period. Right? And we can go really deep with it. And I mean, it gets way deeper and really interesting, but I'm trying to explain it in a relative fashion so that people can kind of connect to this, right? Because there's a lot of research and a lot of practice and a lot of meditation and a lot of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera that goes into this. But boiling down to it, you're made out of atoms. Your energy, that's all you are, different energies with different energy signatures colliding together. You know, your abstractions of energy pulsating. And we go back down to the atom, right? The electron cloud is spinning practically at the speed of light. Does it feel like you're moving at the speed of light? Well, people don't really realize that traditional movement doesn't really exist. What's happening is there are quantum light fluctuations. You're deconstructing and constructing so fast that it appears that you're moving, but you're really not doing that. And it's a beautiful thing once you can understand that on a molecular level. And that's what Kabbalistic meditations are all about, right? Getting to that deeper, the deepest solid level where you can envision one of your molecules or an atom and how it's spinning. And remember, there's all these principles, right? And all these principles correlate directly with the body and how everything is spinning together and pulsating together. And you can literally focus on one of these principles or multiple principles and dial in on one of these atoms or molecules and how it's whipping around. And you can do this with multiple and how they're connected with each other and creating this energy. And so when it comes to this inverted world, understanding the structure of the universe is really important. And this is why I'm a huge fan of esoteric knowledge, hidden wisdom, because who the fuck is going to teach you this? Is it in the best interest of the elites to tell you this? Fuck no. Rockefeller said, I want a nation of workers, not thinkers. What a piece of shit statement to say, right? Slavery, what a piece of shit thing to happen to humanity, right? And we're talking contemporary events that have happened within a few generations. Imagine what has happened through humanity. What's happened to humanity? All the violence, all the degradation, the bullshit. You don't think it's an inverted world? Fuck yeah, it's an inverted world, right? Yeah. And we live in a polarity state where there's harmony and there's disharmony. There's chaos and there's order, right? And I do not believe in this bullshit method of order out of chaos. I believe in order out of harmony. You know? And that's what's important that's why it's so important for me to live this life of, I guess, self-transformation, and why it's so important for me to sit here with you and talk about all these things and shoot the shit.
I know. What's on your mind? What do you want to share with our audience today?
Oh man, so many things all at once, right? But specifically today, just wanted to shoot the shit with you and maybe just talk about our journey, how we got to where we are right now.
Let's dive in.
Well, for me, it started when I was little. You know, I've always known I have a special relationship with my own body. And a lot of people call them empaths, so to speak, right? Where you're just like an exposed nerve, kind of like the Hulk, where you're feeling everything. And he's got so much rage because he's always in all this pain, right? Everything is always affecting him, but he can't control it because he hasn't learned to master it. First, you have to identify what it is in order to control it. So there's a lot of variables in my life all throughout my journey. I'm like, why am I feeling all these things? And then the material world is just hammering it home that it's ADHD or that it's some kind of mental disorder. And then you start learning that nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. You're kind of just shooting in the dark. So what I mean is it started off pretty difficult for me as a youngster, and I didn't have a tough life. You know, my life was good overall, you know, good upbringing. Parents are awesome, lots of love. Never had to worry about where food's going to come from or anything like that. But what I mean is being like an exposed nerve, you know, all this attention going all around you, all this programming left and right, and you don't even know what to do with it. Nobody's guiding you appropriately. So you kind of got to kind of figure things out on your own. And that's how it all started for me. You know, it was just that journey of self-exploration, and the understanding on a really intuitive level that there's so much fucking more to this world. There's so much more to this world. I'm like, what are all these adults around me why are they so hyper-focused on all this material shit? And I could never grasp it. Because I had always so much love in my heart. And I was like, why are all these people so focused on material shit if it isn't what's really making them happy? You know? And that's kind of how my journey started. And Hey, don't get me wrong. I've lost my way along the journey, but I've always bounced back.
What age would you say you were when you kind of realized that you just stuck out and were different?
Oh man, maybe at 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
It was that young, where I was just like, why are these kids being such douchebags to each other? You know, at 5 or 6 years old, you get these bullies. You're like, why are you being such a bully? And at that age, you don't understand that their parents are also maybe bullies, or maybe they don't have parents, or maybe their parents just were never guided either. And I started realizing little by little at a young age that, hey, this world is very binary. Like your experience is two things. It's what happens to you and what you do with what happens to you, right? Like in and out, in and out, very binary. And so what I mean is for a kid that's 5 or 6 years old, noticing all these things, all these character traits that are being displayed by your by your classmates or by your friends, and you start to wonder, where do you get these traits from? And you can only assume that it's either coming from your parents or from other friends or other people around you. And at a very young age, I started realizing the importance of self-transformation, that you shouldn't judge others because you can't understand what they're going through. That's only for God to decide, to judge, because God knows everything that's happening, right? God is experiencing this reality through us. And that's a huge misconception in religion, that God is separate from you, or that you should be worshiping God. You should be maybe worshiping the principles, right, of love and all these positive polarities of love and all these principles. But at the end of the day, the way you worship God is by realizing what God is on a universal level. You know, there's universal structure, independent of belief. And that, I lost my train of thought. But what I'm getting at is self-reflection, being self-aware, realizing that you can't judge others, and making that connection, that precise distinction that, yeah, this world is experienced by me, by God, through me, and I matter the most to me. But that is the same for everybody else as well. Because if you don't realize that everybody lives in their independent world, and that it's a collective world that's combined and connected, if you don't realize that, then that self-love becomes selfishness. And you have a really tough time being able to measure your surroundings, right? Because there is such thing as universal truth, objective truth, independent of belief. Like there's a structure to this fucking universe. Whether you're Jewish, whether you're Catholic, whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, whether you're whatever. Like there's a structure to this universe. And when you get to the very deepest level of Kabbalah, you know, it depends on who you talk to. It's either the fourth level or the fifth level. Sod, they're both Sod. They both mean secret or secret of secrets. You start to realize that everything is just energy, exchange of energy within containers. Everything's just contained in its own form, but it's temporary until the next shift, right? And that's what life and death is. You know, people have a really hard time understanding what life and death is. And I don't blame them. It's fucking scary if you don't know, right? And it's scary if you don't reflect on it intuitively using all of these principles, right? And what I mean by principles is that they're universal. And that's the beauty of it. All these universal principles can be understood by anybody as long as you have an open mind, you have an open heart, you understand how to engage with love and identify your traumas and just work on yourself and work on yourself and work on yourself and continual self-discovery. And all this takes some serious focus, some serious attention. Not everybody's gonna be able to achieve this, right? And mainly because we're on survival mode. Remember, this world is fucking inverted. It's an inverted world. This world is designed to drain you, to test you. And the difference between an angel and a demon, it's very clear. Like if you don't understand the difference between an angel and a demon, then you should probably go do some research, right? But there's one commonality, that they're both programmed to act a very specific way. And you're brought to this earth to be tested, to act like an angel by shedding what no longer serves, by understanding the structure and conquering your own demons. And at that point, once you conquer your demons and you become angel-like through your own free will, through your strengths, through conquering your negative desires, understanding them, you become more powerful than any angel that's ever existed, because you did it by sheer choice, by will, by strength. These other guys are programmed. And God wants co-creators that he can trust and let loose on their own. God doesn't want to be collectively responsible all the time for all this micromanaging. That's one of the purposes of evolution. And I found that to be extremely impactful when I reflect on it during meditations, because one of the purposes of meditating for me is to literally shed what no longer serves. And in order to be able to do that, you have to understand that there's a polarity. And a polarity of what, though? Everything has a polarity, but specifically principles or virtues. They're interchangeable, like integrity, honesty, humility, and the list goes on. All of those have their polarity, period. Like being a protector, that's a virtue. Protection. What's the polarity of protection? It's the same energy, but what's on the negative spectrum? Violence. Being a violent piece of shit, right? And all of those have their own reasons of why you are within the threshold of positive, negative, right? But it is your duty to somehow learn these things. And remember, life is binary, what happens to you and what you're doing. So that means that your surroundings are programming you constantly. So you have to rely on your surroundings, which means you have to rely on your fellow man, specifically your family, right? And that's why I believe that self-transformation is the wave of the future. Just like it's been saying in the Bible all along, Jesus is your savior. Well, it's been misinterpreted. Jesus is a representation of what every human being can achieve, but it's not fucking easy, right? The whole world is not supposed to be a leader. There are supposed to be a handful of leaders that pass on the information and collectively rise, right? That's just the nature of this world. And Jesus Christ is one of the most important leaders of all time, right? And there's been so many, and so many, and so many, and so many. And it's up to us, the ones that live through the heart, to understand its importance and to carry it on through tradition. That's why I love Kabbalah. The word Kabbalah itself, it's the infinitive of receive, to receive. Lekabel turns into Kabbalah, which is to receive. And not just from God, receiving the light from God or the knowledge from God, but literally to receive and pass on from one generation to the other, from master to student, from grandfather to grandson, and so on and so forth. And it's our duty as grandchildren to identify their flaws so that we don't pass them on just in case they weren't able to. Nobody's perfect, right? But we're trying to attain perfection. And it's our grandparents' duty to do the same exact thing and promote the goodness and to see it in us and to make sure we stay on the straight and narrow. And it's a binary thing. The tradition of Kabbalah is what's beautiful. If you take the time to understand it at its roots and you just start, whether it's at a superficial level or wherever you start, it's a beautiful thing. And for me, I've experienced it directly through my grandfather. And this whole journey I can only attribute to my family and my surroundings and our ancestors, and everything they've ever thought, everything they've ever done has gotten me to this point. So I can only honor them through self-transformation, and honor God and my wife and anybody that I'm around by just being a principled person and never compromising it under any fucking circumstance.
What do you feel like was a key transformation that you've had in your life?
Oh my gosh.
Like a really key one. Like early on, you're just like, hey, once this transformed, I really elevated to the next level.
There's been so many instances, but I'm going to share a very personal one with you that's more recent.
Okay.
My brother and I have a really awesome relationship. He's, like my best friend, and we care about each other a ton. And that's how it's supposed to be. That's the optimal relationship for a brother or for brothers. And I was struggling with some severe energetic blockages. I just couldn't get to the next level, like that next Kabbalistic level. And it was mirrored in my behavior. And I just was kind of lost, so to speak, when it came to my optimal path or my straight and narrow path. And my brother could see it. I'm not going to go into the details, but I will go into the details of the important parts of what happened. We believe in alternative medicine. I call it alternative medicine because the FDA won't approve this, because Western medicine is the complete opposite of this. And remember, this is an inverted world, okay? So it's suitable for us to explore alternative paths, specifically medicine. And he said to me, you know what, I have something for you, and I've been investigating it, and I love you, and based off of how I know you to be as a person, and I love you so much, I'm going to bless you with a gift. And I was like, awesome. And for his birthday, this is what he wanted for his birthday. He planned this beautiful special retreat in Joshua Tree underneath the stars for 3 nights for an ayahuasca ceremony. And he did a ton of research on it and make sure that he selected the safest, the most reputable, and the, I guess, kindest or the most principled shaman, so to speak, that was out there. And he went out there and interviewed these guys and everything. And for his birthday, he planned this for me, and he wanted me to self-transform and to be able to, what's the word? To overcome these obstacles or these blockages. And what I mean is intention is really important. And this will tie together into one of the trinities, which is the intention of the heart. The heart traditionally is interpreted as the tree of life. It's where your blood flows. It gives you blood and oxygen and life. You could be hooked up to a machine and be a vegetable, but if your heart's not pumping, you're going to die. And then it has the other part of the trinity is the tree of good and evil, which is the mind, the understanding of knowledge. And then the third, which would be your behavior, where the information that you have has been refined into its behavior, which equals wisdom. But what I'm getting at is my brother had really good intention. Intention matters is what I'm getting at. This is huge. This is the foundation of everything of the Trinity. It's the intention of the heart. And this is passed on from generation to generation to generation to generation. And my brother's intention for his birthday, all he wanted was for me to be relieved of these blockages, and he planned this beautiful retreat. On his birthday, he made sure that this retreat was happening. And he drove me out to Joshua Tree, and he said, George, I love you, and for my birthday, I want you to experience a spiritual awakening and unblock these blockages. And that is my intention. Those are the vibes that I'm sending you, and I love you, and go do your shit. You're powerful. You're a fucking stern. You got this. That's the energy I was received with my entire life. From my brother, from my grandfather, from my parents, from Morgan, my beautiful wife, from you. And those are the types of people that I want to surround myself with. And that was extremely self-transforming, because if you know anything about ayahuasca, it's a DMT inhibitor. I'm not a scientist. I'm not sure how to explain that part, but it's a DMT experience. And there's a huge misconception of how to go about doing it. You're not just going to go down the street to some person that's got ayahuasca and fucking drink some tea. And it's not a recreational thing. First and foremost, this is a spiritual ceremony that has been practiced for thousands of years, and it needs to be respected. The medicine has its own energy. It's its own entity. It's why they call it Mother Ayahuasca. It's a mother. It guides you. It teaches you with the compassion that a mother would give you, because the compassion that you see from the mother is different from the father. And that's what ayahuasca is about. It's unblocking whatever you want to unblock with intention to connect the mind and create circuits neurologically where, hey, I've been struggling in this area, and Mother Ayahuasca is there to give you a glimpse. It's almost like it organizes everything for you in an instant, or for prolonged instances, until it wears off, and you get a glimpse as to what it should be or what you should see. And then after it wears off, you can't help but remember this experience in terms of how it felt and what you learned from it. And it's up to you to decipher this. Nobody else can do it for you. And this is why knowledge is so important. Opinions are important, but knowledge is more important, because what's an opinion? It's just knowledge that people have. Based off of what? Based off of fucking what? So many people out there are yapping, and all I hear is just nonsense. I'm like, man, like the first thing I'm looking for is, are you a principled person? Are you a good person? Where's the intention coming from? How many traumas are blocking you from thinking clearly? Like violence is a fucking disease, man. It's just a loop cycle of just degradation, whether it's coming from the cartels, whether it's coming from some warlord, whether it's coming from the United States, whether it's coming from Palestine, Israel, it doesn't fucking matter. Do you think God gives a fuck what your ethnicity is if you're being a violent piece of shit? The answer is no. Definitively no. And that's why it's so important to understand objective truth and universal law, and this is what Kabbalah teaches. It cuts right through the nonsense, and again, this is an inverted world. So what do I expect, right? But it also has been said thousands of years ago that the world is not ready for Kabbalah. The sages, the ancient sages knew this, that collectively the consciousness of humanity was just not ready. It might not still be ready, but I have faith that it is. I have faith that it is. And that's why one of the reasons you and I are sitting here talking, right? Kabbalah has impacted our lives significantly. I think we both know that there's much more to life than what meets the eye.
I love it. I love it. And I'm really curious. Like, so you go down this ayahuasca journey, and what do you feel like what are you able to accomplish in that state that you're not able to accomplish in just a regular state of life?
The best way that I can describe it is that it connects your mind in such a way that it unblocks negativity, so to speak. And it makes you experience yourself freely the way that God wants you to experience yourself. Like all of your doubts, all of that goes away. All of your traumas, they go away. Imagine if you could snap your fingers and you could get rid of all your traumas like that. And that means that you're unblocking neurological pathways now that are firing off that normally wouldn't. So you're just creating all these connections in your brain, and now you can think clearly.
Yeah.
Or what if you can snap your finger and say, I want to discover the root of this trauma, or I want to discover the root of this significant obstacle that I've had. I imagine if you could snap your fingers and it would dissolve. That's very powerful. I think everybody can say that the movie Limitless is very impactful because that's what it mirrors. It creates this circuitry where it's just firing off at intense levels without the, what's it called? Well, without the come down, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if you could sustain that level constantly. And that's kind of what ayahuasca does. But remember, it's Mother Ayahuasca. It's very specific into what it's healing. It's trying to heal you. It's trying to show you what you need to see, the way a mother would guide you. It's a soft healing.
Yeah.
And what I mean by soft is that a mother's love is soft. Father's love can be harder. That's just the nature of things. And that's what Mother Ayahuasca shows you. It's a soft way of connecting anything that needs to be connected temporarily so that you can experience it and then come back to your normal state and decipher it and do all of the work necessary to achieve that state that you were in. It's similar to when something happens to society, like 9/11. I remember the very next day after 9/11, everybody was so open-minded, open-hearted, like, oh, let's dissolve all these barriers between humanity, and who gives a shit what religion and what social class and this and that. Everybody's willing to help each other out of the sadness, out of an experience, because something has dissolved the barriers. And that's what ayahuasca does. It dissolves the barriers. But the important part is being able to sustain that feeling over time. You come down and now you're like back to wherever you were. And just like 9/11, how long did it take for people to be pieces of shit to each other again?
It's interesting because I feel like we're born in such a pure state. And as we continue to go through things and we have all these different life events happen, like for you're talking about things with school, like you and I have some parallels with that. I didn't have a very easy time with school myself. Didn't really have many friends. Didn't fit in. It was like, hey, I was kind of branded as, hey, there's something wrong with this guy, or this guy's broken. Like, the time I was like in middle school, like I was going through psychiatric evaluations and I got kicked out of middle school. And it's just, and you just sit there and you look through all these different things that happen, right? And you go and you create all these walls in your life, right? These events in your life, they form traumas.
Yeah.
And to keep these traumas out, you build walls, right? So now it's like, now my inner dialogue is telling myself, hey, there is something wrong with me. I am broken. If I encounter somebody or I interact with somebody, that is going to reflect poorly on that person. I'm going to bring that person down. I'm like not doing somebody a service by interacting with them or trying to be somebody's friend. And bam, I'm now shutting down as a person. I'm a burden to society. I'm a burden to other people. And I basically had to convince myself of all of that, like all these layers of different things happening. And you fall further down the rabbit hole. It's like, hey, I am a bad person. I am a burden to society. I am different. I am broken. There is something wrong with me. And all of these things are just things that I came up with myself and built all these walls or ideas or inner dialogue. And it's like, and how do you get to that remembrance of who it was that you were originally born, like the state that you were originally born in? And how do we just spend all these years unlearning all the stuff that we've taught ourselves that may not even be true about ourselves?
It takes a special type of soul energy, first of all. Not everybody's meant to go through these experiences. And we also have to be mindful or understanding that there's cycles in the universe. Like right now, we're entering the golden era. I think that's what the Vedics called it. And we're coming out of the age of ignorance. And it has a lot to do with the zodiac signs, right? And the motion of the earth and the motion of the universe itself, and that there's cycles in the universe itself where maybe there is specific time frames, because we live under time, where we're just meant to be ignorant, right? And that's where it gets a little difficult to understand, and you have to have faith and leaps of faith on what you don't yet know. But what we do know is that following your heart isn't enough. It's learning all of these things. And how are you going to learn them? Well, you have to be a special type of soul. There's a soul energy that is necessary in an age of darkness to be able to recognize these things. And it's based off of your ancestors, the power of your ancestors. There are some leaders and there are some people that are meant to be leaders and some people that are not. Some people, even if they had the opportunity, might not want to be leaders, right? And I don't mean leading a country like a president, because God doesn't look at it that way, right? God is looking for quality over quantity. Because if you understand the structure of the universe and how it applies universally to everybody, and you start having all these aha moments by embodying them yourself and having grace and not judging and just measuring and continually improving yourself, you're going to get to a point where you're resonating, you're vibrating so high where all these things are just going to come to you intuitively. So you say that you're, beating yourself up all this time as a kid and all these burdens and this and that. You're describing like Jacob's ladder. And that's something that happens to everybody at some point in time on a smaller scale or a grander scale, frequently or infrequently. It just depends, but every human being battles with this. Well, with some kind of insecurities, self-doubt. It's just part of human nature, and society takes a toll on us. And that's why it's so important to have a strong family unit. I promote strong family unit, mother, father, children, because there's an intrinsic value to that. It's an inherent value. So you're telling me that you have all of these feelings, and as you're a kid, remember, your experience is based off of two things: what happens to you and what you do. You are not responsible for the people that are doing the things to you. You really are not, to a degree, right? If you really want to get to the minutia of it. But at the end of the day, if you have these parameters, what I call fixed parameters, you can guide your own self through life very pragmatically and very mystically, because these are parameters that are universal for everybody, independent of your belief system, independent of whatever you think or your opinion. The structure of the universe is for everybody. And you're there to mold it accordingly and use it to shape your reality. So what I'm getting at is, it's a soul energy that is inherited, and it's not meant for everybody, but these are the things that everybody experiences as well. So for you, I get the sense that you do have that soul energy. I can sense it off of you, right? You really do. And you've been proving it left and right, not just to me, but I'm sure to God as well. And it takes a special type of person to even be interested in these things. What interests people in Kabbalah or self-reflection or this or that? It can be different for everybody, but it takes a special type of energy. You know? So I'm glad that you were able to identify that at a young age, and look at you now.
It's definitely been a wild ride. There's no question about that. Have you ever watched, there's this TV show, Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I haven't. I've heard about it, but I'm a huge fan of Avatar, the movies. They're awesome.
So completely unrelated. This is a kids show. It's a kids show from I believe it was like the early or mid 2000s.
Nice.
And there's essentially like a long like lineage of ancestors that are avatars who like master all these elements: air, water, earth, and fire. And there's like a young one who's born. They call him Aang, and he is the last airbender. The rest of the airbenders became extinct, and they're like, oh my god, this guy has the soul energies, a reincarnation of the previous avatars. And it's like, how can we rely on him? He's a young kid to kind of grow into this full avatar and master like the four elements and kind of like unite. I think the Fire Kingdom had kind of control over all the nations. Like, how can he defeat the Fire Kingdom and unite the nations? Yeah. And the show essentially goes through his journey to like learn these elements, but there are certain things that he couldn't learn in this current lifetime. So he had to go back into different like states, like different meditative states, and go back and remember the stuff that his ancestors were capable of and were doing to master the four elements so he could unite the kingdoms. And it was really interesting watching that. The first time I watched it, I was a kid. I think the show came out in like 2005 or 2006. I was like not even a teenager yet. And I rewatched it a few years ago. Again, a kid's show. And I'm like, holy shit. This entire thing was incredibly deep. It's like, it is basically telling us that all this pain and all this stuff that this guy's going through, he literally needed to not only move forward in the current life that he's at and learn about the things that he needed to learn, but to go back into the previous lives that he had, that his soul had already lived through, and remember those experiences and be able to channel them in this current lifetime that he's living. And lo and behold, he moves through the journey, right? And he eventually gets to a point where he masters the four elements and goes head to head with the Fire Lord and is able to kind of get it taken care of. And all of a sudden, the kingdoms are like, hey, like the Avatar basically came to save us. But it's like,
it's awesome.
It's interesting to think about like all these things that it's like our destiny is likely already written. And most of the things that we have that are going to occur in our lives are more so about remembering who our soul has been all along and applying that to our current lifetime rather than, hey, what can I learn? What can I do here? Oh, should I go and get a job here? Or I'm going to go and eat a sandwich here, or take the train here to get to here. And just all these little details, like, yeah, they can be a part of your destiny, but we sit here and the stuff that we worry about, it just appears to be such a small speck on such a bigger picture.
Wow. That's impactful. I love how you described all of that. I'm gonna have to watch that show. It sounds badass. I love that type of shit.
I know, right? all,
yeah.
all of a sudden, we'll have
awesome.
to sign you up to some like kids club or something. You'll have to go. And
hey, Disney Plus is all you need. Disney Plus is all you need.
They'll have to put on. I think it was a Nickelodeon show. I think they'll have to put on. A little show. It's like, all right, Georgian kids, like, let's go. It's time to watch the Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Hell yeah! Why not? It sounds badass.
I know, right?
It's badass, and that's one of the things that I love to do with my wife is watch, honestly, like kids movies. We love Disney movies. Why? Because
Dude,
they're wholesome.
I think
They're wholesome. There's a lot of lessons in there.
I think you and Morgan would actually love this show.
I think so too. You hear that, sweetheart? We're gonna watch the Last Airbender.
There we go, Morgan. Avatar:
psyched.
The Last Airbender. Y'all are
psyched.
gonna watch like a 20-year-old Nickelodeon show now.
Super psyched.
It's being sentenced.
Hell yeah! Cheers. That's gonna be cool. We're definitely gonna do that. We spend quite a bit of time watching kids' movies, Disney movies. We love them because they're wholesome. And you're saying something important. Remembrance.
Yeah.
Why do kids have such an impact on us? Because they're pure energy, like you said.
Yeah.
They're pure energy, and they remind us energetically through a sensation that they give us. Their sheer presence, their sheer existence is a physical reminder of what we once used to be and what we can be and what we should be. And that's what children are. They're a gift to this world, and they're so pure and so beautiful. And I just can't fathom anybody wanting to hurt them. You know, it's so fucking insane. Like, violence is a fucking disease, right? And it's our job to remember these things constantly. Remember, suspend those feelings.
Yeah.
Like the 9/11 example that I gave you. It's like, why would you forget that? And it's because we're living in an inverted world, and there's so many distractions left and right. And the 4 elements, and that's a huge key to existence, right? Like Yud He Vav He, the name of God. Christians and Catholics are going to love this. Yahweh. It's a Hebrew word, right? And it literally translates into Latin into tetragrammatron. Like if you go look up the definition of God, it's kind of difficult. You can open the preface of a Bible, and it'll tell you in Latin that Yud He Vav He, Yahweh, 4 letters, that's what it's talking about. Tetrahedron, 4 letters. So it's talking about an equilateral triangle in a 3-dimensional space, or a pyramid, right? And everybody's familiar with the pyramid, the occult or esoteric wisdom. It's on the fucking dollar bill, right? And it's important to note that, this is a simple way to look at it. When you go to a bathroom, what's the shape on the bathroom? For a man or a woman, it's a triangle, right? One of them is like this, and the other one is like this.
Yeah.
Masculine, feminine. Everybody has both. That's what the Star of David can be interpreted as. Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, he spread out like this. You could literally map out a triangle and another one inverted upon each other. Yeah. 2 tetrahedrons spinning against each other. That's your Merkaba vehicle, right? But what I'm getting at is, the Last Airbender, 4 elements. So we have the roots of creation separated into 4 elements, so to speak, or specific elements that you can wield for what? For a lot of things, right? For control, for power, for manifestation, for bending air, whatever the heck it is, right? I'm going to have to watch that show.
I know, you didn't think you'd leave here with such a gift, did you?
No, thank you, sir. I appreciate this. This is awesome. I mean, holy shit. Who would have thought?
We'll have to, what is it, next Halloween? It's like we're painting an arrow on your head, bro. It's like...
Hell yeah, that'll be sick, right? That'll be cool. Super, super into that. But it blurs the lines between creativity, between illusion, delusion, and reality.
Yeah.
It's all one and the fucking same. If you can think of it, that exists for a reason. Doesn't mean you're going to manifest it in the moment exactly how you thought of it. Why? Because everything's an abstraction of energy. And that's what you learn at the deepest level of Kabbalah, that everything is an energy that's correlated with each other. Like what do they say in Hermeticism? There's a specific saying, as above, so below. That's what it's trying to describe, that your inner is a representation of your outer and vice versa, and everything is abstract energies. Well, anyways, we're getting off topic, but what I was getting at is the 4 elements, the 4 letters of God, right? And those literally are describing like tetrahedron, tetragrammatron. It's talking about grammar, words, letters, specifically the 4 letters of God, Yud, He, Vav, He. And if this airbender control the elements by going through this process, going through the journey, it really is mirroring one of the Kabbalistic journeys of being able to, 1, understand the structure of the universe. And you talk to Kabbalists, real Kabbalists, they'll tell you that there's 2 primary goals of Kabbalah, is to understand the structure of the universe, and communicate with the upper force. It doesn't even say God, it says the upper force. That's a metaphor for a very specific vibration that you achieve. You're climbing, you're increasing, you're shedding what no longer serves. So a physical way of looking at it is climbing a ladder, Jacob's ladder, right? It's a representation of conquering your dark side, because the purpose of chaos is to understand darkness and to overcome it, not to become it. And so these four elements, or these four letters of God, they represent these very sacred shapes. And philosophers like Plato knew this thousands of years ago. How the fuck did they know that? Because you can do molecular meditation. Because molecular meditation is a thing. And these things are embedded into your DNA. It's been shut off. Just like you said, you have to remember. And this place is inverted. It's a world that challenges you because you have free will. And God wants co-creators that he can trust, that he can cut loose. Yeah. Angels and demons are programmed. You are not. So if you overcome your darkness, if you understand these principles and you embody them and you pass them on in good faith for your fellow man, all for one for all type hero shit, right? You really embody this. You don't have to be doing grand things out in the world. You don't have to be fucking Elon Musk or Trump. You don't have to be any of that. Does God really give a shit about that at the end of the day? Maybe so, but only if it's quality. Quality over quantity all fucking day. Yeah. That's what's important. And these four letters, these four elements, they have these specific shapes and these and now we're getting into the deeper side of it. That's what fascinates me the most.
Let's go, George. Let's fucking go.
This is the badass part, right? This is the badass part. Or borderline sorcery and reality. Yeah. Right? And I think that this is one of the hidden keys, the hidden secrets that's been suppressed intentionally because they understand what this power represents. It even says it in the Bible, right? It says it that this tetrahedron, this throne of God, this equilateral triangle, this sapphire, Sephirot, it really is, it's talking about sapphire what? Sapphire what? Sapphire energies. You're a crystal. You're a crystalline being, like a light body. Like the word human itself, right? You can find out the etymology of human. You can do that with every word that's attached that comes from Latin. But our words are compounded. They have different meanings to them. Like human, separate that word. What are the first two letters? Hue. What comes in hues? Colors. Man. And not mean like woman and man. I'm talking manifestation. You're a manifestation of light. Like look at the cover of Pink Floyd. It's got the triangle with the white light reflecting in a bunch of different colors. That's what you are. Yeah. The white light is all of those colors combined. And what do those colors represent? Everything is energy. Correlation of abstract energies. Everything is energy. So those colors correspond with specific ranges of energies, starting with the crown all the way down to Malchut, right? Which is the Sephirot or the chakras, like the 7 chakras.
Yeah, well, Sephirot, you got the chakras, you got, like David Hawkins' map of consciousness, enlightenment. Sure. It's all like kind of like triangular, like it's all goes from the top, from like the crown area. It's like enlightenment and Hawkins. Yeah. You got Keter and Kabbalah and the 10 Sefirot, and you got the crown chakra, and it's like it's all these different interpretations of essentially this state of remembering essentially to the beginning of your soul's journey.
Exactly. You're completely right. It's a good way to describe it. And so this airbender is controlling these elements, but he's got to go through a certain process, and the processes are it'll be fun. It'll be fun
to talk about this after you watch the show. You're gonna go. It's like I saw this stuff and I get this and there was this part and this is what they were trying to say here and shit. I might have to watch the show again too. It's like I haven't watched it in a couple of years and I was nowhere near where I am now from like a consciousness standpoint when I watched it. Like I think I watched it like 4 or 5 years ago again. And it's like, obviously, when you're a kid, you're just like, this is cool. The guy's bending air or whatever. Sure, right? It's like,
Of course, that's what I mean. It blurs the lines of reality.
Like, but when you watch that shit as an adult, it's like, okay. Like, there's so much deeper meaning here.
Such deeper meaning.
And it's like funny. And there's so much other things. Like, so many other kids' shows or movies. It's like, I watched a few months ago, I watched Lion King. And
it's like, Morgan and I just watched that.
Yeah.
Just recently.
Yeah, I know, right? So and it's like, and you sit there and you watch Lion King, and it's like, again, like Simba, you need to go back and kind of remember who you were born to be.
Exactly.
And it's like, and every, like, he's got these traumas. He's sitting there. He's like not over the fact that his father was killed and he thinks it's his fault.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, Simba, you got to go back. Simba, you got to go back. Like, not only go back physically to go and take over the kingdom and become the king, like get the king back in, the lion is the king of the jungle, get back in the jungle. But Simba, go back to when you were born and remember who you were born to be.
Yes.
And I think that like applies to like all of us in life. Go back to when you were born and remember who you were born to be.
100%. Beautifully said. That's completely right. And it's one of my favorite Disney movies. There are so many lessons to be learned or to be extrapolated, but you got like Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah.
You know, they're just strangers, and all of a sudden they start taking care of this little cub and show him the way. So what I'm getting at is that you can learn from practically everybody, right? And some people have that natural inclination to just help others in their own way. And I would say that most people have a natural inclination to help others in their own way. And yeah, objectively, the world is full of good people.
Yeah.
Right. But there's just so many distractions collectively happening all the time. And it makes it really difficult to sustain that harmonic state of being all the time. Right. And then it goes back to astrology or the zodiac. You know, we're coming out of this cycle of ignorance or of darkness, so to speak. So it's not about blame. It's about understanding the structure of the universe and how all these things correlate together. And you start to notice it every day once you start learning these things and practicing them, embodying them. And there's so many amazing synchronizations that happen every day, all the time. And it's by design, so to speak. And I don't I know that there is no coincidence.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even say the word believe anymore, because the word belief intrinsically implies self-doubt, some kind of doubt. A belief means you don't have proof. And to me, intuition is a form of proof. And
Totally agree. And it's like, again, it's like, what is your intuition with, hey, like, you go back to Lion King, right? It's like, okay, Nyla's like, hey, this guy's out there somewhere. Like, I got to go and find, like, we got to go and find Simba, bring him back type of thing. And it's like, and I mean, and it's like Simba with like Timon and Pumbaa, right? It's like we all have our Timons and Pumbas in our lives.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, we run into them all the time, right?
right.
It's like they may not be as high of a soul or have as high of a capacity as we do, but they're there to serve a purpose and to guide us towards our highest selves and our highest good, right?
Yeah,
and to keep us essentially safe from ourselves. Like, the person that Simba was in danger from the most was himself and his own self-destruction, his own beliefs. And it's like, I believe that in our lifetimes, we are the greatest dangers to ourselves. Like, there is not a single bigger threat to Ben than Ben. And it's just really interesting to think about, right? And it's like, who are the Timons and Pumbas of the world that we can run into? Like, who are the Nylas of the world that can see something that we may not see, right? And go, hey, like, this guy can actually save us. Like, let's go and kind of find, like, I'm gonna go look for him. Like, he's got to be out there. Like, this whole thing makes sense, right? And then again, that is a going back to a remembrance of when Simba and Nyla were like lion, like just basically just being born and like in their like youth stage, and it's like just the whole story makes sense. And at the end of the day, you can never connect the dots looking forward. Yeah. But if you do enough work and enough thought process, there's times where you can connect the dots looking back. And when you do, it just clicks.
Definitely, man. I agree completely. Life's a beautiful thing. It can be a beautiful thing. That's one of the reasons we love Disney movies. Look at how our conversation just shifted, just talking about.
I know, a Nickelodeon show at a Disney movie. Do you have that on the bingo card? Of like, hey, George, come be on the podcast. We're going to talk about a Nickelodeon show and a Disney movie.
Some impactful shit. That's some impactful shit right there. Damn. The power of, movies, Hollywood, creativity.
But
It's fucking awesome.
The other thing about that is it also kind of brings to light about how we see things and how we view things and how we interpret things. I mean, there's millions of different people that have watched The Lion King, and there's millions of different interpretations. And I mean, it's a comeback story. I mean, some people it's a story of resiliency. Some people it's a story of trauma healing. Some people are kids and they're like, this is just cool. He's the king of the jungle.
Exactly.
It's like, I mean, I'm sure there's some girls out there going, hey, look at this love story, man. It's like, you got these two lives. They were friends when they were kids. Now they're back together. They're having their own next generation. Like, I mean, and it's like everybody looks for their own interpretation for all these different things.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing in life that's black and white. It's just, what is our interpretation of it? And how can we use our interpretation to apply it to our own life and essentially achieve the highest good and move our soul forward as much as we can possibly move it forward?
Completely. Well said. And that goes back to, you are your own world. And as long as you never forget that everybody also is their own world, and you should respect those worlds, then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise self-love turns into selfishness quite quickly.
Yes.
Right? Or lack of responsibility or accountability. Right? And man, like Disney movies are just, they are wholesome. They're nostalgic. And just like the Bible, you know, they have these allegorical messages that seem to be childlike, but really they're veneers for immense depth. Because the creators understand that,
I mean,
there is so much more behind it that maybe humanity isn't ready to receive yet, but they are ready to receive the superficial aspects.
Yeah.
That are easier to digest in an allegorical form. I know, because I mean, what would be more fun on top of it, right? Is to learn through these awesome metaphors through movies and through books and through all these experiences and creativity, or for somebody to sit down with you and explain it to you in such a boring fucking fashion, man. Right?
Well, it also goes back to thinking. It's like the people who created these movies, like, okay, the person who created Lion King, I mean, you go back in all these other movies that have all these other hidden messages, right? It's like, it was somebody's purpose to come on this earth and figure out, how do I leave this specific, like, spiritual trail of messages for essentially like the rest of time for people to view? Like, this is going to be in a time capsule. Like, Lion King will be getting viewed by people 1,000 years from now, right? And somebody will watch it.
Yeah.
And the spiritual messages will still apply.
For sure.
And you've got people who came onto this earth and they're like, my job is to embed all these hidden messages in these kids' movies. And it's like, these kids can go and watch these movies and enjoy it, but for whoever can sit here and kind of decode these messages, they are here, right? Yeah. And it's like, I'm sitting here and thinking of this conversation that you and I are having right now. It's like, I'm almost tempted to just go back and just say, hey, what are some of these other movies that I need to now go back and watch
100%
today as a 30-year-old man, like, and just go back and see, like, okay, what's the message of Tarzan? Like, what's the message of, like, I mean, all these other movies and stuff that I don't really remember that I watched when Beauty and the Beast. Like, what did I watch? Like, what did I watch when I was a kid that, like, I saw the surface level of, but if I went back and watched it as an adult, I would understand it completely different, which we talk about Avatar. And then now, what if I went back as a conscious adult and rewatch it again?
Yes.
What would I get from it?
This is super important to understand. You can do that. You're doing it right now just by speaking about it. That is one of the definitions of self-reflection. Being able to insert your current consciousness into your past consciousness and interpret it with the knowledge that you currently have.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful form of self-reflection.
Yeah.
And I mean, damn, you asked me earlier, what are some of the things that I've been able to achieve? And that, what you just described, is one of the most impactful. right there. Be able to insert your current consciousness into a past consciousness and understand how it could have played out in different scenarios.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, wow, and it's just fucking awesome.
Yeah. And then you look back at it and it's like, hey, that friend I had the falling out with 12 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. It's like, like, okay, if I put my consciousness in from today back to that scenario, it's like, this would have been handled this way by myself. I would have realized that this is what the other person was going through and what their needs were in that situation, even though they weren't capable of communicating their needs at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, and all of a sudden, you start achieving these synchronicities in your life, not just with yourself, but with the people that are around you, the Timons and Pumbas of the world.
Exactly. Fuck yeah. There's this awesome book by Alexander Dumas called The Count of Monte Cristo.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite books of all time. They actually made it into a movie, to a few movies, I think. And it tells that story of what you just described. In that movie, he's self-reflecting and able to insert himself with his current consciousness, what he's learned from a priest. You know, long story short, he's in jail with this priest, and they're both there under false pretenses. You know, they're both framed.
Yeah.
And he partners up with this priest, and he teaches him all these positive principles and how to be a refined gentleman, et cetera, et cetera. And it takes place during the Napoleon Wars, towards the end of the wars. But the book itself is so impactful, so many parallels with what we're talking about: redemption, resurrection, self-reflection. And this priest teaches him to go back in time using his current consciousness and to figure out why people did what they did to him and why he wasn't aware of it at the time and what he's going to do about it now. Beautiful book. And he eventually escapes the prison, and the priest gives him this treasure map, and he goes and finds the treasure, and he calls himself the Count of Monte Cristo, and he goes back to France, and he just goes crazy with, I wouldn't say he goes crazy. He starts on this road of what it seems like revenge, but it turns into redemption at the end. Such an amazing book. Highly recommend. So, but we're talking about movies, books that inspire us, and
it's like all these hidden messages, and then it just really brings up the point of like, what are the hidden messages we've left for ourselves in our own lives?
Right.
Like, they're there. Like, at some point in time, they are there.
Yeah.
It's like, I sit there and I think about what, like, a time when, like, I was younger, and there were some things that I could not have possibly known. But did I know all along? Like first day of kindergarten for me. I went to school. I vividly remember my mom walking me to the front door of the classroom. The teacher telling me to go put my backpack on some like rack or something. I straight up told the teacher no. Ben at 5 years old.
Yeah. Defiance.
5 years old. Told her no. I then bumped into another kid in like the line to get into the classroom. And we kind of got into a minor altercation, which is in kindergarten. I mean, nobody's beating each other up, but we're arguing, probably calling each other stupid, maybe a little shove or whatever it is. And I got sent to the principal's office. I had the opportunity to see the principal's office in elementary school before I ever saw the classroom. Like, what a fucking story. And that was indicative of how the rest of my elementary and middle school and high school journey was. But the point of this whole thing is I felt that there was a certain way that I wanted to express myself, whether it was to the teacher or to the student or to my mother who was walking me into school. And the theme of my childhood became authentic expression that was suppressed by others. And then I would get in trouble. Then I'd act out because of it. So there would be defiance involved. So I was not able to express myself authentically, and that led to defiance. And then so now all of a sudden I'm down this rabbit hole of, hey, I'm getting into trouble, all this different stuff's happening. And fast forward to when I get to my independent study school in my sophomore year of high school, when things started to turn around for me. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, Ben, like we want you to like do your thing, express yourself. Like first day I got to school there, my teacher's like, hey Ben, what are you going to do for history? I'm like, oh, like, what do you mean? Like, do you have a project for me or whatever? Like, I'm used to school system being very like collapsing in and just there's a certain specific system. And I'm like, he's like, no, Ben, you're going to be an adult soon. You should kind of decide what you want to do. And yeah, okay, I'll watch an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary and I'll write a report about it. He's like, sounds good. Let me know how it goes. I'm like, like I like sports. I can be interested in this. I can work on this project. I can write about it. Instead of being told about the gold rush in California in 1849 or 1848 or like, I don't give a fuck. And the point is I always wanted to express myself authentically. When I was 5 years old. And here we are today sitting on a podcast talking about whatever the fuck we want. Whoever wants to listen can. Whoever doesn't want to listen has literally billions of other options of content that they can consume. But there are no limitations to who I am as a person as far as expressing myself authentically. There are no limitations to you as a person expressing yourself authentically. And when you really look back at all these moments in our lives, like, yeah, you may think that me telling a teacher no, or me getting into an altercation with a kid at school, like before I even go to school, like, hey, does that count? Like school hadn't even started yet. Like, does that count as me getting into trouble at school? But
straight away.
But I know, right? It's like school hadn't started yet. It's like, I mean, I don't know. It's like arguing with a referee before the first quarter type of thing. It's
Why
like,
am I not surprised hearing this?
I know, right? But the message I left for myself was I want to express myself authentically.
Hell yeah.
And throughout my 20s and stuff, when I'm going through my self-discovery phases and reflections and journey deeper into myself and my authenticity,
Yeah.
the key theme remains is remembrance. Can I just remember who that 5-year-old kid was, what he desired to do more than anything, which was express himself authentically,
Hell yeah.
and get back to that. And now again, that may not be for everyone to do, but for me, that's something that's very important to me.
Well,
And I see so many other people wanting to express themselves authentically today. And it's like, how can I just inspire those people to get back into that remembrance to express themselves as authentically as they can?
by having these conversations,
Yeah.
by promoting it,
Yeah.
by embodying it, by conquering it yourself and inspiring others. And it's badass what you're doing. And this is one of the reasons why I love my wife so much. Now, she reminds me of what it is like to be childlike in the heart,
Hell yeah.
where you can just be kids with each other and laugh at anything, and you can be best friends, and there's zero judgment, and you're going about life in such a beautiful childlike fashion.
Yeah.
And I don't mean lack of responsibility or discipline or any of that nonsense. If you ask any kid to pretend to be a lion, it's going to be easy. They're going to go rawr, rawr.
Yeah.
Or to be a gorilla, they're going to do this. It's really easy. be an adult. They're going to go like this. They're going to crunch up their shirt and they're going to grab a little beefcake and be all serious. That's because humanity has lost its way.
Yeah.
Humanity has lost its way, and Kabbalah, the main text is a Zohar, and that translates into the Radiance, the Book of Radiance. And it's telling you that there is a special type of energy that suspends all of existence, and it's radiant energy, and it's all love. And what is love? And it's funny because I was at the podcast, or the Kabbalah One, the other night in Newport, which was beautiful, by the way. David's awesome. We had a great conversation. I love the entire structure of love, light, and life. And everybody's got this card, and they're asked to share what their definition of their word is that they selected, that they pulled. And it's interesting hearing what people's definition of love is.
Yeah.
And again, it's subjective based off of knowledge, though.
Yeah.
And your intention and your soul energy and how many codes you're able to activate in your DNA, right? So your opinion, yeah, it's important, but it's only as good as your knowledge. And your opinion is only as good as your intention. And your opinion is only as good as what you've able to embody. Are you practicing what you preach? There's all these mechanisms that come into play that create your vibration. Your vibration is everything that you are, everything that you think, feel, behave, etc. So what I'm getting at is it's awesome hearing everybody's interpretation of love when, to me, there is a specific definition of love, independent of your belief, and it has to do with the structure of the universe. And it has to do with that radiance and being able to be a kid, and that energy of just pure harmony and love is what suspends all of existence. And that's what Kabbalah is trying to teach you, that there's a structure of the universe, and love is what suspends everything. And it's separated itself on purpose so it can experience itself in a polarity state, so it can understand and refine itself. It's a biological supercomputer experiencing everything at the same time and calculating and crunching everything at the same time. And what is it using as a source of parameters? It's using the Kabbalistic parameters. Like, is there something else that can be created that is more effective and efficient than love? And boy, nobody has been able to prove that even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Not with all the fucking technology that has ever been produced in all of existence. Nothing can duplicate love. It's that radiance. Like the love of a mother when she holds her newborn, that's a glimpse of it.
Yeah.
That's a glimpse of it. And that's one of the reasons I am so in love with Morgan. Like she resonates that energy. And when we're together, our souls are like fused together.
Yeah.
You know, I know 100% that we're twin flames and that we've been separated for lifetimes, and now we found each other. And her soul just radiates that beautiful energy. And we both feel like kids when we're together, but we're also responsible humans. And we want to create and share this with the world and create babies and just be awesome together. And one of our favorite movies is, The Lion King and Peter Pan. And again, all these movies have all these messages, and people are going to interpret them the way they're going to interpret them, depending on their state of consciousness. But at the end of the day, Walt Disney was a 33-degree Freemason.
Yeah.
End of story. And, you know, there's been some comments on social media about my ring, you know, my Freemason ring, you know, that was passed down to me from my family. And people are saying, like, how can you be Christian and wear that ring? How can you be Jewish and wear that ring? Well, because Freemasonry is independent of religion. It is ancient. It is ancient knowledge that existed for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years before any organized religion ever existed. And it stems from Kabbalistic principles, where there's a universal structure to existence independent of your religion. And then these degrees that they speak of, it's like climbing the ladder energetically, shedding what no longer serves, because you are all energy. And remember, you have chakra zones and you have sephirot. And all those energy zones have a range. You know, I use like positive and negative because it's easy to visualize. But that's not how they're interacting. They're pulsating like a sphere, right? Everything is like pulsating energy, right? And you have different energy zones in your body that have materialized into light, into this dense matter. And the 33 degrees is representing an awareness of your surroundings and how the structure. But yeah, I love going deep with it because this is the kind of stuff that I think humanity is craving but doesn't know that they're craving.
Yes.
They're craving something, but they don't realize that this is what it is.
Yeah.
It is a sacred part of existence that everybody's craving, but that nobody wants to talk about. Why? Because they're self-conscious, because they haven't unblocked traumas, because they're distracted by the material world, because of this, because of that, excuse after excuse after excuse after excuse, excuse after excuse after excuse. But what I'm getting at is, man, to be a kid again, to be able to enjoy life as a kid again, but with everything that life now has to offer you.
Yes.
You know how insanely fucking beautiful that is.
Yep.
It's awesome to have a Ferrari and a nice house and a Rolex and nice stuff and
Yeah.
a beautiful wife. But you know what's fucking cooler than that? Is being a good fucking person.
Yep.
Being a good fucking person that is principled, that is honest, has integrity, that cares about humanity, that prays every day, that eats clean, and understands the nature of the universe for the greater good of humanity.
Yeah.
And to pass on these traditions, because there's too much loop cycling in this fucking world. Too much loop cycling, too much idolatry of nonsense bullshit that doesn't fucking matter. You're never going to take that with you anywhere. And at the end of the day, find your Morgan. You know, my wife's name is Morgan, and she is what gives me all that radiant light and reminds me on a daily basis what life is about.
Yeah, no, and you guys are incredible together. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. Shit, y'all dragged me halfway across the world to come to your wedding. I mean,
Which we appreciate, by the way.
It's
That
like,
was
dude,
badass.
I was sitting there going like, I had never been out of the country as an adult. It's like all of a sudden I'm getting a wedding. I'm like, an invite to the wedding, and I'm just like, shit. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I absolutely love Morgan. Morgan's one of the most incredible, radiant souls that I've ever met in my entire life. And then I'm like, okay, like I absolutely love George. Like, I mean, this guy's like level of depth is unmatched. This guy's like an old soul. He's like just such a phenomenal person who brings everybody up around him. And I'm like, I don't want to go out. Like, first of all, I didn't even know where the hell Santorini was. I'm not a very geographically sound person, right? I look it up. I'm like, okay, it's a tiny little island in Greece. I'm like, lovely. Like, it's like, okay, but like, whatever it is, like, I will fucking be there. Like, I am not going to miss that day. Like, I mean, this is
so awesome.
I mean, this is a union of two souls that, I mean, has literally been lifetimes in the making. And like, I mean, and you sit there and you think how many thousands of years it's taken for your current soul, or your soul in the body of George and Morgan's soul in the body of Morgan to come together after all these years. And it's like, it's really interesting. It's like, it's amazing. Like, it's really just a breath of fresh air to see. And it really kind of breeds the thought of, who are the people in our lives do we just recognize instantly when we meet them? It's like, you see someone and you're like, I've never actually met this person, but there is such a sense of familiarity. And it's like, what is going on here? I want to find out more.
For sure. Well, first of all, thank you. That was beautiful. We love you very much. We were so psyched when you told us you were coming. We're like, fuck yeah, Ben's going to fucking make it. And sure enough, you were there supporting us, loving us. And man, we wouldn't have it any other way. And my dad was psyched. He's like, am I going to be the only other Jew there besides me? I'm like, no, Ben's coming. Ben to the rescue.
Yeah, I know,
Don't you
right?
worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
It's like, yeah, we'll be able to acknowledge the breaking of the glass. Like, have no fear.
My dad's like, somebody else knows what that means. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was badass. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
That was really, really cool. An awesome experience for everybody. Santorini was beautiful, even though it was a little windy.
Just a little
Just
bit.
a little bit. For those listening, it was insanely windy, but
I swear it was like a hurricane without any other weather. Like, I mean,
but it was romantic as fuck. It was so romantic.
it was awesome. It was
I kept telling
amazing.
Morgan, I'm like, this is beautiful. This is exactly how it's supposed to be. No coincidences.
no coincidences.
And this is a good measure of our own relationship, that we can handle anything. And this wind is just passing by and relieving us of any negativity.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought it was beautiful. And I love that it subsided after the ceremony.
Yeah,
We got
I
to
know,
enjoy
right?
that beautiful view.
Yeah. No,
That was really cool. Man. But so much hidden knowledge all over.
Yeah.
not just in movies, but in our own
in our
selves,
own lives.
our own lives.
Like I was talking to you about like at the wedding, right? It was windy as fuck. Like, I mean, like to the point
Super
where
windy.
it's like I was sitting there, like I was not that far away from you guys, like couldn't hear your vows. And it's
And
like
maybe that was the way it was supposed to be.
And I sat there and I thought about it like instantly. And I'm like, what if at this time when George and Morgan are reading their vows, that their vows were literally just meant for each other. And like nobody else needed to hear that.
I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly what my heart was feeling.
Yeah.
While, not so much while I was experiencing it, because I wasn't really aware, but afterwards, when I reflected on it, I said to myself, she's my twin flame.
Yeah.
And these vows that I wrote came from the deepest part of my soul. I meant every word. And so did she. They were beautiful words. They were so impactful. And I truly know now that that's the way it was meant to be. That exchange of energy within twin flames, it was a sacred moment.
Like it was amazing, like on my end, because it's like I was sitting there. It's like, okay, now it's time to read the vows, and then it's like all of a sudden, like whoosh, like crazy wind comes, and it's like, so I can't hear what you're saying, I can't hear what Morgan is saying, but I can see you guys both like feeling and responding to each other, and like your body language and interacting with each other, and I'm just sitting there going like, I can't hear what's being said. But what's being said right now is like so fucking powerful that maybe it's like so fucking powerful that all of a sudden God's sending this incredible wind because none of us in the audience can handle what's being said. And it's like here we got these like these vows that have been thousands of years in the making.
Hell yeah.
And it's like, and it's like they literally weren't meant for anybody else. Like,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
that is like the only way I can explain like that insane amount of wind during that very moment. And like, I was pretty close to y'all. Like, I don't think I was like anything more than like 20 feet away. Like, I mean, like, it's like, and I'm just sitting there like, if I can't hear, like, other people there can't hear too. Like, it's like, literally it was y'all and the person that was administering like the wedding, right? It was like you three essentially there. And that's how it was meant to be.
Yeah, her Uncle Gary was the officiator. And I mean, I know he got to hear some of it.
Yeah.
Which also was meant to be, because it was almost like one of her relatives was meant to hear this energy and confirm it from his own soul and say, George is meant to be here with Morgan, and Morgan is meant here to be with George. And what better person than a family member that loves Morgan just like his own daughter? And Uncle Gary's a great man. I love that guy. He's a really good person. He's a great uncle, and he just resonates that energy that Morgan has. And remember, what shapes you, what happens to you, aka your family, is raising you, programming you, and Uncle Gary's a beautiful soul as well. So I'm glad that he got to hear us and kind of give us his own blessing from his heart and say, this is authentic. This is authentic exchange of energy right here. So that's how I interpret it. And man, the whole wedding was just magical. Morgan did such an amazing job putting it together and planning. And hey, I got to have some of my own input, right? But at the end of the day, it's her creativity, the destination that we selected, super romantic, overlooking the ocean, the Aegean Sea during springtime at sunset. The venue, I mean, you were there, man.
Yeah.
It looks like a castle at the edge of a cliff.
And then it's like all the other stuff she was worrying about. It's like she texted me a couple days ago, like, man, I know you have food allergies. Like, can you tell me what your food allergies are?
Yeah, it's concerned for you, man.
I fucking love Morgan for
This
that.
literally happened.
I'm like, here she is, probably about like a week or two away from getting married, and it's like she's sitting there worried about like whatever, like what people can eat or whatever it is, and I'm like,
but that's how she is. And she worries about the people she cares
and
about.
that's the epitome of Morgan. She just cares. Like she
does.
not only cares, she notices the small details, and that's why I just think it's just such an incredible union between the two of you guys.
Oh,
and it's
thanks,
like,
brother.
I mean, yeah, it's just like I could not be happier for the joy that you guys get to experience, and to see you guys and like the level of vibration that you guys get to achieve when you're together is incredible.
And that's awesome that you say that, because there's something that I've been sort of fixated on, and it's a technology that measures people's energy or your aura. And you would think that out of all the energies that you are expressing constantly, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, you would think that love would be the highest form of energy. But it's actually not. The highest form of energy that exists is authenticity. It's like 10 or 100 times more powerful than love.
Yeah.
And authenticity, wow, it's akin to truth, living your own truth, and that is a powerful thing.
I've noticed it in my life. I mean, when I all of a sudden got to a point, it's like, hey, my return to my authenticity and like authentic expression throughout every action in my life, I've noticed that love flows both outward from me and inward to me in the interactions that I have with other people.
Yeah.
And I now no longer want to be in a spot where I am not authentic and I'm not aligned with what's going on in my life. Like if it is not authentic to me, I'm just going to pass, because it will lower my vibration. And I realized that I can continue to radiate this level of authenticity.
Yeah.
And by doing so, I will attract other people that radiate their own level of authenticity.
For sure.
And together, we can expand the level of our capability to hold a higher vibration.
Totally.
And all of a sudden I realize now it's like, okay, like the random person that I'm getting introduced to that appears like is a person that superficially somebody would want in their life. The successful guy, sports cars, watches, the attractive girl with her friends, like the people that superficially you would want to have around you. I now am looking at like, what is the level of vibration that I will get to by being around said person, having said conversation, taking said action. And all of a sudden now my thought process is in terms of vibration. And it's like, I just don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I'm just going to be authentic. And when I come across people that radiate that back and we get to achieve that higher level of vibration together, it's just fucking everything.
No, definitely. And it's directly correlated with the laws of correspondence or the laws of attraction. You attract what you are, but you also attract what you aren't. If you are willing subconsciously or consciously to learn lessons, like if you are telling yourself certain things in your mind, I want to be this, I want to be that, but you don't understand the deeper meaning of what it means to be those things, there are going to be lessons in your life that are going to show up sometimes as severe obstacles. And the universe is going to say to you, this is what you need to experience and overcome it and learn the lessons of this to become what you truly say you want to be. Practice what you preach, right? And unfortunately, this is why knowledge is so important, because practice what you preach is also directly connected to how true or how pure your knowledge is. God takes into consideration your ignorance to a degree. And that's why God gives us mercy, because we have so much ignorance, right? But if you want to live authentically, then you better practice what you preach, right? In your mind and in your heart. You don't want to be a hypocrite. And by design, we're hypocrites because we live in ignorance, right? Nobody's perfect. But that's the entire purpose of evolution if we're talking about shedding what no longer serves and becoming what you want to be, generation after generation after generation. And it all comes back together, angels and demons and co-creation and all these mystical aspects of existence. And it's really hard to sustain that understanding in the inverted material world. Like you said, you want to be surrounded by what? What do you want to be surrounded by? You had mentioned, good-looking people and high-performing people and this and that. But yeah, that's their exterior. They're pretty on the outside. Are they pretty on the inside? Quality over fucking quantity.
Yeah.
That's what matters all day, right? And love conquers all. End of story.
Yeah.
Love is a commander of all elements. Love is a commander of all existence. And if you're filled with love and you trust your truth, then, oh man, you're on the right path.
Well said. Well said. George, I mean, it's such a great conversation. I mean, so great to touch on all these different things. And I'm like, I get to think about a lot of different things that we talked about today. And I just feel so privileged that we got to sit here and hash all of this out. Where can our audience connect with you further, find you further? I know you're kind of a little bit low key. They may not have that much of an opportunity, but is there anywhere our audience can connect with you further?
That's awesome that you say that, because low key is the best way to describe my social media presence. I've never been into developing my self brand or anything like that. I've kind of been low key, kind of on purpose, a private person.
Absolutely.
But now I'm seeing the power of sharing your perspective and sharing what you have with the world. And this journey of yours, this authentic journey, this podcast, it really has inspired me. So you can find me on Instagram.
Ooh, he's giving it out. He's giving it out.
Instagram, right? The only reason I use it is so I can communicate with family and so I can secretly stalk my wife. And for those who don't know her, she's Morgan Style. She's an influencer herself, and man, I've learned so.
There we go.
Much
We gotta give Morgan the plug. So we'll put
yeah.
Morgan's info in the description for everybody.
Yeah.
Morgan is one of my favorite people that I've ever met. I mean, just the way she approaches life and how she uplifts the people around her, and she cares and she's detail oriented, and it's just
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can find me under GStern84. I think that's my IG handle, GStern84. And my profile picture of
there we go. Well, he usually doesn't post anything,
No,
so
I
hopefully that can change. Hopefully we can get George talking to the world a little bit more and sharing more about himself. But if you want to stalk George for his very uninteresting Instagram or DM him, flood his DMs.
100%.
We want to bug the shit out of this guy. We want to get him out of his shell, talking more.
For sure. I'm all about that. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
no,
man,
it's
for the inspiration.
Absolutely, George.
I appreciate
so
you.
great. Really great having you, and I'm sure this won't be the last time. Like, we're gonna have so many more great conversations and shit. Who knows? Maybe we'll just be on the
Certainly
phone
hope
one
so.
day, and it's like, hey, this needs to be a fucking podcast. Let's get to the
Hell yeah.
studio. Let's go do it.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, that was so great. And for everyone watching, please definitely connect with George. And if anything today that was said on the episode resonates with you, we'd love for you to let us know. Give us a follow, give us a like, share the episode with your friends. Let us know what you think. I'm your host, Ben Beeri. You can connect with me on Instagram at Ben Beeri, BenBeeri. And we'll see you on the next episode of The Authentic Journey.